Using very basic tools, we're going to strip down and rebuild this chainsaw. This is a very quick video from the full version I've already uploaded. Okay, so we'll take off the bar and chain. Now we'll take off the recoil, and now we'll separate the main unit from the handle. And to do that, it's simply the removal of the 3 AV spring screws. Okay, we'll pull that across. Now we need to remove this throttle linkage, which is easy enough, and we'll pull out the main unit from the handle. Now we've got the main unit, we'll take off the chain brake handle. And now the exhaust, the special anti-corrosive nut, the cover, and the spark arrestor. The exhaust retaining screws are next, and that's the exhaust removed. Now we'll remove the coil. Remember, this is a very quick and short synopsis of the real video. We'll now remove the air filter retaining screw, the retainer, and the air filter. And we'll remove the back part here. That now allows us to get to the air filter housing, so we'll loosen that. And we'll slide off this wire and tip out the nuts, and we can slide off the housing. Next is the primer bulb. Then we'll slide off the carb. Click off this pipe. We'll now take off the manifold. There we go. Spark plug out. And we'll put some cord in here to lock the engine, so we can now remove the clutch. Okay, so I'll just get a punch and an hammer and I just knock it off like that. Nice and simple. Okay, so we'll remove the clutch. In the clutch housing, just keep that washer. We'll remove these bolts underneath now, and that'll hopefully allow us to remove the pot and start to separate the engine. So the removal of these 4 special bolts means we can now lift up the pot and expose the piston. Now I'm going to screw out the flywheel nut slightly. I did untighten this earlier. And then I'm going to take this tapered wood chisel and I'm going to jam it behind the flywheel like this. That's now applying some outward pressure to the flywheel. So now I'll remove these springs here from the starter pawls, which will allow me to move back the pawls so I can hit the centre of the crankshaft with a soft hammer. This has now loosened the flywheel off its taper, and we can now slide it off. And we're one step closer now to removing the crankshaft. All I need to do is turn it round and remove the oil pump, which you can see here in black. It just pulls out like that. Now the crankshaft should be loose and able to pull out. Now I've got some simple dishwashing liquid and some hot water in a bucket and a paintbrush, and I'm going to clean up all of my parts. So I'll just scrape away a little and then I'll soak some parts and scrape away at some others. I'm not using petrol because I'm inside. So I've cleaned all these parts up. It's actually come up very well, all of them. And we'll take the main unit now. I'll just make sure there's no debris around this area before I start building it up. Let's take a look inside the fuel tank. I'm going to pull out the fuel filter and see if this is blocked. I'll blow through it after I've wiped it. Yes, it is quite blocked. I'm going to fit this smaller fuel filter, but it won't make any difference to the quality of its running. It is indeed a brand new one, so that should be fine. Now I'm going to remove these anti-vibration springs and fit the new ones that came in the kit. Just making sure they're tight. Okay, so we'll look at the crank now. I'm going to pull off the seal and the bearing assemblies. This side I can't pull off because there's a little worm there that operates the oil pump, so I'll just lever it off with a screwdriver. Now I can lever behind the bearing.
There you go.
Okay, so they're the parts. Now I've got the crankshaft, just give it a little clean. I've got the new seals, the new bearings, and now the bearings need to be pressed into the seals. So to make it a lot easier, I'm going to freeze the bearings for a few hours to contract them. Then I'm going to clean up the inside of the seals, and then I'm going to expose the seals to hot water to expand the metal within them. Now it will go in a lot simpler, but I'm going to get a socket around the back of the seal and then press it in with the vise. Now I've done that with both of them. Still wasn't easy getting those in, but managed it in the end. Now I want to see if the big end bearing's okay on the crank and there's no motion that way. So we'll hold it solidly on both sides, and we'll try and move them back and forth like this. And thankfully this is okay. Now we've got the new piston ring, and we'll place that on steady at the back first, and then I bring the front round slightly and then click into place. We've got the locator pin in the centre and the ring squashing to it exactly where it should be. Now I'm going to remove the piston itself. I've got this little pick and I can easily fish out the retaining clip. And I'll turn the piston round, and from this side, using just a screwdriver, I can easily push out the gudgeon pin. I've got the new gudgeon pin retaining clips here, and they're slightly different. They're shaped like a letter E. So with these particular ones, I hold this part with a pair of long nose pliers and I place them in bottom first and click them into place. That's now placed correctly. Then I'll lubricate all these areas with the 2-stroke oil before lining up the little end bearing and placing the new gudgeon pin into the new piston and small end bearing. The retaining clip prevents the gudgeon pin from being pushed out the other side. And we just now need to put the other clip in the other side. Then we'll fit these plastic shields, otherwise known as air shrouds or transfer covers, into the cylinder. They fit in this way round, which matches the contours of the cylinder, rather than this way. And they'll just slide straight in. We'll now take the bearings and seals and we'll simply slide them on the crankshaft. As long as each bearing's facing inwards, it doesn't matter which side of the crankshaft they go because they're identical. So now I'll take the new piston and with the ring in the correct place, I'll lubricate it all over with the 2-stroke oil. Some in the cylinder as well. The entry to the cylinder here is tapered. That allows the ring to gently be compressed into its rightful place as we steadily push the piston in. So now with the arrow on top of the piston facing the exhaust port, we'll gently push the piston in, gently wiggling it from side to side to allow that piston ring to gently compress into its rightful place. Then I'll take some high temperature sealant to seal the bottom face on the cylinder, but before I do, I shall just clean it up to make sure there's no oil on there. So now I'll take the main body and the bottom portion of the crankcase and I shall apply the sealant. After a 5 or 10 minute dry off for the sealant, I'll bring in the pot, piston and crankshaft assembly. And I'll push the pot down nice and firmly into the sealant, which won't ooze out of the sides too much because of the dry off period. I'll then place back in the cylinder retaining bolts and I'll tighten them up in opposites to bring the cylinder down level. And I will finish up by torque setting these to 11 Newton meters. Now it's fully tightened down, we can see the sealant stayed in there nicely, hopefully creating a good seal. Now I'm loosely placing on the flywheel to see if the engine turns okay, and it's absolutely fine, nice and free. So now I'll refit the crankworm for the bar oiler, knocking it down as far as I can with the socket and then using a punch for the rest of the way, until it clicks into the special crevice on the crankshaft. And we'll refit the oil pump by wiggling the front of it in like this and pressing it down. And I torque set this to 3 Newton meters. Next goes on the special washer, then the clutch drum, which is a little worn but I'll replace it when I need to, and then we'll just see if it's nice and loose, which it is. Then there's another special washer, then the centrifugal clutch, which screws down anti-clockwise. We'll lock the engine with some more recoil rope, and I'm pinching it tight with some soft hammers because when we run the engine, this will naturally tighten. But the correct torque setting for this is 30 Newton meters. Okay, now we'll place on the flywheel with its special concaved washer, and we'll put the plain nut, and I've tightened this up to 30 Newton meters. Then we no longer need to keep the engine locked, so we can remove the cord. And that's turning okay, and now we'll fit the coil. I'll fit the retaining bolts in, but I won't tighten them, so we can move the coil up and down. Then I'll place in the spacer the thickness of a business card and set the air gap. Done. Then again, using my little pick, I'll reattach the starter pole springs to the starter poles and make them spring loaded again. Place in the spark plug so nothing falls into the engine. I'll clean up the inlet port face and fit the inlet manifold, making sure the gasket's present. And easiest done if 2 bolts are placed in first. Loosely screwing the top bolts in holds it in place, and makes it much easier to get the two lower bolts in. And then I screw them in opposites to bring the manifold up evenly. Then there's another gasket before the carb, but it's easier to attach the throttle linkage now before the carb is placed on. Otherwise it's near impossible to get it on once the carb's fitted. Another one is the choke lever. It needs to be fitted here before the carb is slid forward. Okay, now everything's in place, we can slide on the air filter housing, placing in the retaining bolt and nuts. I tighten these between 4 and 6 Newton meters. Right, so now we can click in the primer bulb and place on the pipes at the back. There's a lower pipe here, and I can use a pair of long nose pliers to fit that to this bottom pipe on the carb here. So the new air filter goes on next, then the retainer, and then the retaining screw. I'll tighten that up. There's a couple of wires that need placing. One of them is this, I should have put on when I put on the coil, and then we'll fit the spade connector for the stop here. Now for the exhaust. Whilst it's off, we'll place in these spacers, followed by the retaining screws. With the retaining screws sticking out the back, it's easy to place on the gasket and the heat shield. Offering it all up to the machine like this makes it easier to keep everything together. And there's no gasket that goes between the heat shield and the cylinder. These retaining screws then can be tightened up to 10 Newton meters. Now the spark arrestor, and this is nice and clear so we can fit this, it's not blocked. Then the cover. Then the special anti-corrosive retaining nut. Now we'll refit the back cover, placing its retaining screw, and then we'll reconnect the throttle linkage to the trigger mechanism. Okay, we'll bring them both together now and we'll fit the new AV springs, and that will officially connect the main body to the handle. As these special screws screw in, they actually make their own threads in the plastic that's attached to the AV springs. This is the third and final spring to connect, so that's now the handle connected to the body. Next goes on this cover before the recoil assembly. The engine's turning okay, so let's continue and we'll now fit the bumper spike back on. Now for the chain, I just fit it over the sprocket like this, and then I'll hold it up and slide the bar onto its retaining pins between the chain loop. I then settle the drive links into the groove of the bar and pull it outwards to take up the slack. Then I'll fit the cover and the chain brake handle. So the chain brake handle just slots in. Now we can slide the cover onto the retaining pins, making sure that the adjuster fits in the correct hole on the bar. Now loosely slid into place, we can now connect the other side of the chain brake handle. That snaps in easily enough. Now we'll loosely fit the nuts, and then I'll turn the machine around and fit the special bolt for the handle. I'll connect the spark plug cap and fit the cover. Now to tension the chain, I pick up the back of the saw so it pushes down on the bar, creating an upward pressure on the bar. Then I tighten the adjuster screw to where the chain is at a decent tension, not hanging down but not too tight, where it just snaps back when you pull it like this. And then I'll tighten the retaining nuts. And the chainsaw's now ready to test. But before I do that, I'm going to give it a quick compression test to test that new aftermarket engine. So after pulling the cord about 6 or 7 times, I was pleased to see that it was around 115 psi. Not brilliant, but actually more than I expected, owing to the fact that it's an aftermarket engine. So now we'll get it back together and out for a test. When I'd filled it with fuel and come to prime the engine, I wasn't 100% satisfied by the way it was priming. The bulb just didn't seem to be filling properly with fuel. Even so, I thought I'd just have an attempt at starting the engine, see what it would do. And no matter how much I pulled and pulled, it would not start. So at this point I started wondering what it could be. Did I miss something? Did I put something in wrong? I was sure it wasn't the engine itself, so it was back to the bench. After looking more closely at the priming system, I found that the valving wasn't working correctly on the new primer bulb. The fuel was entering and leaving the primer bulb through the same pipe, when of course really it should only be coming in through the inlet from the fuel tank and then leaving through the return back to the tank. But then I fitted a second new primer bulb, and this worked as intended. The only thing that's on my mind at this point is that there seems to be a lot of air coming in with the fuel. Nevertheless, I thought I'd get it back together and try starting it. At this point I thought I'd got it, but I hadn't. The engine just stopped and I could not get it going again. So back to the bench once again. I decided to have another look in the fuel tank, and that's when I saw the fuel filter had dropped off and the fuel pipe was split. In fact, the whole fuel pipe was soft and felt degraded, so it must have been letting in air. So I replaced the whole pipe, then replaced the new aftermarket spark plug with a new genuine one, built the machine back up and tried it again. This time with much better results. The engine started and ran, and I just needed to make a few minor adjustments. Gave the saw a little test and I was pleased with the way it ran.